When my boyfriend called me psycho in front of his buddies at that party, laughing like I was some unhinged joke, I smiled and nodded what he didn't know. I had screenshots of every desperate, obsessive text he'd sent me for months. Time to show his friends who the real crazy one was. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and immediately sense something's off. That's exactly what hit me the moment I stepped through Callum's front door. That Friday night the bass was thumping. People were laughing way too loud, and there was this electric tension in the air that made my stomach twist. I should have turned around right then. God, I wish I had. I was running 20 minutes late because my sister had called with some family drama, and honestly, I'd been dreading this party all week. Callum had been acting strange lately, more possessive than usual, questioning everything I did, everyone I talked to. But when I finally found him in his living room, surrounded by his usual crew of friends, he seemed different, looser, more relaxed than he'd been in weeks. Bryce was there, sprawled across the couch like he owned the place, beer in hand and that smug grin he always wore. Tanner sat beside him scrolling through his phone and occasionally chuckling at whatever toxic masculinity forum he frequented. And Knox, sweet Knox, who I'd always thought was different from the others, was leaning against the wall looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. They all looked up when I walked in. And something in their expressions made my blood run cold. There she is. Callum announced his words slightly slurred. And I realized he'd been drinking for a while. My beautiful, caring, absolutely psycho girlfriend. The way he said it with this theatrical flourish, and a laugh that didn't reach his eyes, made my heart sink into my stomach. The other guys snickered, and I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment. I forced a smile, trying to play it off as a joke between us, but my voice came out smaller than I intended. Everything okay, babe? You seem a little tense. I was genuinely concerned. He'd been having panic attacks lately, staying up all night texting me about his insecurities, his fears that I didn't really love him. I thought maybe the stress was getting to him again. That's when he really went for the throat. Tense. He threw back his head and laughed, this harsh, bitter sound that made everyone in the room shift uncomfortably. Guys, you have no idea what it's like. Dating someone this clingy. She literally needs to know where I am every second of every day. It's like being monitored by the FBI. The room erupted in laughter, and I felt something inside me crack. Bryce slapped his knee dramatically. Dude, all girls are like that. They act all independent until you're dating them. Then boom, they transform into these obsessive stalkers. Tanner looked up from his phone grinning. Remember Jessica? She used to drive by my house at random times just to see if I was actually home. Insane. Knox finally spoke up. But not in the way I hoped. At least Roxy seemed sweet about it, right? Like in a caring way. His attempt at diplomacy only made it worse. Like I was some helpless, lovesick puppy who couldn't control herself. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. Here was the man I'd been supporting through his worst moments, who called me crying at 2 a.m. because he was convinced I was going to leave him, telling his friends I was the unstable one. The irony was so thick, I could taste it bitter and metallic on my tongue. Callum continued his performance, feeding off their laughter like some twisted comedian. She gets upset if I don't text back within like 10 minutes. As if I'm not allowed to live my own life. He gestured wildly with his beer, nearly spilling it. And don't even get me started on how she reacts when I talk to other girls, even my co-workers. It's exhausting. I stood there frozen, watching the man I thought I loved rewrite our entire relationship in real time. Every moment of genuine concern I'd shown, every time I'd asked about his day or worried when he seemed distant, was being twisted into evidence of my supposed instability. The worst part wasn't just the lies. It was how effortlessly he told them. Like he'd been practicing this narrative for weeks. Excuse me, I managed to whisper. My voice barely audible over the music. I need to use the bathroom. Nobody even looked up as I walked away, their laughter following me down the hallway like a pack of hyenas. But as I closed the bathroom door behind me and leaned against it, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and burning. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something cold.